So you talk about being interested in designing interactive experiences around social data.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly does that mean?
So I'm intrigued by what you can do with data. There's obviously we've come to a time where it's really easy to get a ton of data, right? People are producing more data than we've ever seen. So historically it's been difficult to actually get data. Now we're just flooded with it, and where my interest lies is making sense of it. So grabbing it wherever I can and actually presenting it in a way that is interesting or teaches you something. And what's fascinating, I think, about social data is the fact that it teaches us a lot about people.
Is design, do you think, taking a bigger role in new forms of news media than it has in the past? What do you see as different roles for design?
I think it's everything. Everyone is expected to be able to deal or work with data. It's journalists who are. I mean, there's a lot of conversations about data journalists, right? Journalists need to be able to mine stuff that people say online and figure it out and come out with a certain output. Designers as well, they need to create interfaces that deal with this sheer amount of data. So in order to actually make a solid interface, you have to do a lot of prototyping. So I think designers, in fact, are also expected to be able to build stuff and prototype on the fly, take data wherever they can get, push that into the interfaces that they're designing and building as proof of concept. So I think it's seeping into like a variety of practices, and we'll just see more and more of it.
Okay, so you talk about being interested in computer science and design and sort of bridging those two worlds. How are the worlds different, and what are the challenges in bridging those?
The worlds are extremely different, at least historically. I mean, when I was studying computer science, it's probably 10 years ago, I mean, that was a totally different world, like software, packaged software development, very little web at that time, or very little talk about web. I was lucky enough to choose to actually go on and focus on design, and then figure out a way in between. But I think people who are studying computer science now are actually, like, they're building stuff that people use. So they're building systems or sort of studying how to make stuff that people will find, people will have the ability to use.
Speaking of, I guess, both, your artwork has explored the future of the book. And I mean, what do you see as the role of the book is definitely changing as we're moving forward. What do you see as kind of the future for that medium?
So that was an interesting project,
yeah.
A collaboration with Judith Donath and Martin Wattenberg in Boston. And the idea for that was part of the Boston Book Festival, which is sort of this big deal in the Boston Public Library, which is, you know, this massive library in Boston. So we made this installation. It was actually, we got a lot of quite interesting reactions, because what we did, we took all these recycled books, or books that people were throwing away, and painted them all white, and built a sculpture and added a variety of screens that visualized people's notions and practices around reading books from Twitter and a variety of other sources. So the idea there, we placed this sort of digital sculpture in the library where people weren't used to actually seeing something that's interactive or sort of screen-based. And that was like some really great reactions, and people were saying it's so nice to have a piece in the library that sort of gets you thinking. Yeah. And not just, you know, not just be expected, you know, the old-fashioned way to pick a book and read it that way. So that was where that project came off. Since then, we showed it also at the Berkeley Center for New Media, and it lives online in various places.
Interesting that it bridged library to new media in terms of exhibition space. It's kind of fun. Okay, so you have an interest in sort of helping to present viewers with different perspectives through, like, more cultural diverse perspectives through new media? Do you feel like the new brands and new platforms, Twitter and Facebook, are doing a good job at tailoring?
That's a good question, because I actually don't.
Yeah.
I feel like they're doing what we do in real life, and we all stay in our familiar neighborhoods, and we interact with our friends or with the people that we would interact with or we would want to interact with otherwise. It's rare that people sort of bridge communities, and so what I think like, you know, technology, the web, all these social spaces, we're supposed to be the great equalizers, right? Everyone can say what they want and talk to whoever they want, and we'll have peace on earth. Well, that's obviously not what's happening. So there's a lot of potential there, though, because, again, I'm going back to the data point, because we can have a better way to observe what's going on and actually maybe amplify or sort of, it's like putting a looking glass over certain actions and amplify the bridging that happens versus just, you know, the people who stay in their
normal
communities.
Circles.
There's a project that I've been involved with over the last few years it started at the Harvard Berkman Center. It's called Global Voices Online, and it's an amazing community of bloggers from all around the world, and these, in effect, what they're called, or you can call them as bridge bloggers. So people who follow local news in different languages in countries where they're from and where they're living, and translate them to English so that other people can actually get a sense for stuff that mainstream media would not pick up on. And it's become this really amazing portal, and you see actually CNN and New York Times pointing to it all the time, because it brings and highlights perspectives that you would not
that you would miss.
So I think, in short, we're staying in our familiar neighborhoods, but there's potential to actually amplify the stuff that bridge, and that's what Global Voices is doing.